tried 2 different building materials for garden beds. Did I make a mistake?
Stronger than wood, won't rust like metal, sturdy, simple and budget friendly, and you can make it to any size. So here you can see the finished project. I actually put loads of bricks down and created it to the right height I want. Let's build one entirely out of bricks and still cost less. Are you looking for an easy DIY raised bed that's cheaper than wood and stronger than metal and can be built in any size you want? I'm currently growing pumpkins in there. They're doing really well. What I will do is I'll walk around, show you it and decide what we want to do. If you're using garden bricks or patio blocks, you can position them in the size you want for the space you've got. They're easy to handle. You can simply pick them up individually and bring them here. You don't need lots of big large metal pieces or wood. So I like this garden bed because it works very well. I've got it to the right size. I put compost in it and it works well. Let's have a look at how I built this garden bed.
You want a nice stable ground to put them on. I actually chose to put some plastic down to make sure weeds don't go through. I flattened off the area, and here's what I made a mistake with. I had lots of blocks and concrete from my garden drive project. If you're not following along on the series, make sure to check out that video. I basically had a really ankle breaking staircase in the front of my house. I broke it all down and I kept some of the bigger pieces for this garden bed, and the majority was taken away on Facebook, but I kept some behind and I used them here. I made a mistake there.
What did I fill the garden bed with?
So the reason I made a mistake was they're quite edgy, like concrete blocks. I used cardboard in the bottom. I had some turf from my basketball court project. I made a basketball court in my garden, a large patio, and that layer made a nice base layer for everything else. And then I used a lot of compost from my garden composting, and that did extremely well. So I used half from each of the compost bays, and this is basically over the years lots of garden material composted down. So it'll be great for vegetables and especially veg hungry, so like pumpkins, zucchinis, that kind of thing. And I have planted pumpkins in here which have done very well, and because it's a large bed, it actually keeps moisture in there very well, so you don't have to water it as much. And because it's made of bricks on the side, those hold it all in. So you'll see here I've had these concrete blocks which were my original concrete broken pieces which were around the bed. I did at a later point put bricks around, getting rid of the concrete blocks. So this is like a diary of how I did this and started and then adapted as I was going along, because I was able to get a lot of block paving which I then used for the garden bed itself around the edges. It looks a lot more clean, a lot more contemporary and a lot more smart. And it's always good to have compost in your garden because you can use it around your garden beds and use it in walkways. It works very well to suppress weeds, and if you've got more than one compost bay, it works even better. You can kind of circulate between the two. And if you're not following along, you can check out the compost build video as well. That was one of the first early things I did in the garden to prepare myself for everything.
How did I make the walls of the garden bed?
So you notice once I discovered that the concrete that I used wasn't very good, I actually used block paving. I just stacked the blocks like Lego bricks.
So I extended the garden beds, put loads of compost in and then put straw over the top, just because now we're heading into winter. And you can see my pumpkins are coming along nicely here, and I've still got loads of space for planting. I even went further to the next step where I actually put paving on the floor to match. So I might do a separate video about the paving and how to stop weeds growing in the paving as well. Watch out for that episode coming soon. Make sure to subscribe so you see that in the future one. So you can see here the garden bed is extremely wide and it does very well. So the garden bed comes all the way to the end, And I've got loads of nice little tricks in this garden bed. What you'll notice is I've got a little trick up my sleeve. In the garden bed I've made inbuilt composting, so I don't have to have roads of compost. I've got one bucket there, two there, three there. So all of my compost from my compost bins was used in the garden beds. So you can see it's kind of everything's gone to halfway now. So I used quite a lot of compost from my compost bins. So wood prices are insane and metal kits are flimsy and expensive. Bricks are cheaper, last forever, and give your garden a clean, timeless look. Keep a level handy so all walls don't lean. Dry stack them if you want them to be removable later. The best thing about these, why bricks beat wood metal, no rust, no rot, lasts for decades, cheaper long term, no need to rebuild every few years, safe for food growing, no pressure treated chemicals, looks great, blends into any garden style. So you can see this is the garden bed here. It's extremely big and wide. I'm counting 4 foot this way by a easy, let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 meters. You're not seeing the entire thing here. I'll walk all the way around it. I'm currently using pallets to hold up the growing media here, and you can see around here. And that's it, a brick garden bed that's stronger and cheaper than wood or metal, and it'll probably still be here when my grandkids are gardening. So you can see now the garden bed's doing really well. I like the fact that it's easy to set up. I was able to just lay the bricks out. I've gone 1, 2, 3, 4 visibly bricks high. I've actually gone one down as well, so it's 5 bricks high. It's a perfect depth. I can fill it with compost, and it's just starting to rain now, so it's very good for you to see how this bed behaves. I've got a couple of other beds which I've been setting up, and you may have seen those in the videos, but this was a really long bed, and if I'd done this out of metal or wood, it would be very expensive. I would have had to revisit it a number of times throughout the years to obviously maintain it. However, with bricks, they're solid, they're inert, so they should do really well for growing. I'm hoping you're finding these video series useful. Brick garden bed that's stronger than wood and won't rot like metal. Let me know in the comments, would you build a bed like this? Well, here is my garden bed. I built it out of blocks and it's nice and easy. You can actually make this work really well for you. If you're using garden bricks or patio blocks, you can position them in the size you want for the space you've got. They're easy to handle. You can simply pick them up individually and bring them here. You don't need lots of big large metal pieces or wood. So I like this garden bed because it works very well. I've got it to the right size. I put compost in it and it works well. Let's have a look at how I built this garden bed. At the moment I'm using a DIY pallet as a climbing frame for my pumpkins, so ignore the DIY job there. On screen you'll see another video now which will give you more about how I did my garden paths and the big mistake I made.